I'm Miriam Joy and welcome to my studio. We've got Easter coming up, so we've been working on some new colorful ideas for you, and these are made with reed, and you can either do them with a plastic egg or you can do them with an egg gourd. So there's a couple of different ways you can do that. Now if you were going to use an egg gourd, the first thing you would do is go ahead and dye it or color it whatever color you wanted, and go ahead and then seal it, and then we're basically going to do it the same, only you're just going to drill. You're not going to put the pre-hole in like I'm going to show you. So I'm going to use a little bit bigger egg this time just to show you a little bit better. And what I decided is when I was using a bigger one, I wanted to put something a little bit heavier into it so it would stand up if I put it into my egg holder, that it weighted it down a little bit. Now that you've got your egg glued, you can remove any big pieces of glue. And this guy has a little hinge right there, and I'm going to move him just to make him smooth. The small ones don't seem to have it. And each kind of egg has a little bit different softness or hardness. Now I'm going to take an ice pick. You also could take a bead reamer if you wanted to. And I'm going to start my hole. Now this is the step that you would skip if you were doing an egg gourd. Now see, that hole went in nice and easy, real easy. And you don't want to do it so much that you do get that pushed in right there. You just want to start it. And then what sometimes I'll do on the smaller ones, they're a little bit harder even. So I will start them with the ice pick or bead reamer, just get that going, and then I will come and finish it off with my drill. So we've got that nice clean hole. And if you were doing the egg gourd, that's how you'd go ahead and put your hole right into your egg gourd. So we're going to come around now, and the reason we put the first hole in there is to keep the reed nice and stable. Otherwise it slips around too much, and we don't want it to slip that much. And we've got to go ahead and wet our reed down just a little bit. Okay, and we're soaking our reed. And what we want to do is just make that end a little bit flexible so it doesn't break off. And we're talking about how we have to anchor that. Now if you didn't soak that, that could just break right off. And we're going to go ahead and put this back into our hole. And then it's nice and pliable. Now we want to keep this line right here, and we want the reed just a little bit above it, and we're going to shoot for the widest part of the egg. Now because the egg goes slanted on both sides, we've got to glue this on a little bit. And I'll talk more about the reed in just a little bit as we're wrapping it. And I'm going to go ahead and take my hot glue gun, and I'm going to put it right up against that reed, not too much, just kind of taking that tip, and then we're going to bring the second piece right around, and it gets easier as you do it, trust me, and go right over that glue. And we're still trying to keep it just a little bit away from it. And I'm going to go ahead and do this back part now. And this is what helps keep it into place. And if you need to just glue it on, see how we've got it wiggling around a bit. If you need to just glue that on and get that glued first, that's fine too. And then just add a little bit more glue to it to put that second reed on to kind of make it nice and smooth. We want to make sure it's on this side, not on the other side, so it doesn't show. So we've got that anchored a little bit. I'm going to come back here and put that right over it. And we'll clean it up when we're all done. And it's just this first row we're going to anchor. You don't want your glue above the reed. You want it on the side so it's not going to show. And I'm barely squeezing any glue out. I'm using very little of the hot glue gun. And the reason we're using hot instead of the low temperature, it's going to give you a little bit longer working period. So I'm back to where I started. So now I'm just going to go ahead and start wrapping it. Now this is a number 2 reed, and I get my color reed from Susie Noon when I go to the Gourd Show. She dyes it and has it wonderful colors. You also can buy it online, and also a person that sells online is called the Country Seat out of Pennsylvania. And what we're going to do now is we're just going to keep wrapping this all the way around, and I only wet the tip of my reed. That's all I needed to bend really tight there. Now because it slants, we have to glue it on the other end too. We can't just do a hole and put it right in and keep it from slipping. So we want to get even, kind of even on our eggs. We want all these bright colors showing. And that's probably good. And what we're going to do now is we're going to start, I want to start right about where this last one, where we first started, so we end up the same place, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to put glue all the way around and then put our last strand, and again, the smaller the glue, the less amount we have to pick up later, and put it on the side of your reed, not on the top of your reed. Try to keep that nice and clean as you can. And mine at first were a little bit messier. The more I practiced, the better they got. So just barely put any glue on. That's the trick. You don't want it to show up on top here. Keep that as clean as possible. We can use our little hobby knife in a minute here. Come around a little bit more. And I even ended it the same way on the egg gourds. Now I'm right to where I started, so I'm going to take this last part and trim that off. And I'm going to make sure that I've got a little bit of glue right under that last piece so it's nice and secure. And the more you do this, the less mess your eggs are going to get. And then you just go ahead and clean them up with your hobby knife, any of that glue that you got above that line. Just go ahead and clean that off. And each time you do it, you're going to get better and better. And remember not to scratch your reeds. And we're also, I've done them individually like this, and I've also put a flower on them. And we'll go ahead and show you how to do our little flower as well. To make our flower, we're going to use a very thick piece of cardboard. See how it has all of these holes in it? So you want a real thick piece of cardboard. This is about 2.5 inches long. You could make it bigger. I wouldn't go too much smaller because you don't want to bend your reed too tight, but for whatever size of things you want to make. And then I take my hot glue gun and I fill up all of these holes around the edge so that our straight pins can go in there. And I've taken my, I believe they're called the quilting straight pins. They're really long. And the first thing you want to do is stick them one across from each other and line them up there, and then try to put the two in the middle so we have a total of 6 different pins coming out of our cardboard piece. Now I'm going to take my reed, and I did switch to the 0 reed. You don't have to. You can stick with the same, the number 2 reed, what you're going to have to do is just make it a little bit more pliable and just bend it a little bit more. And it just is easier to use the smaller one, especially when I'm demonstrating, but just make it nice and pliable. The one thing that I'm going to tell you is I don't soak my reed, the colorful reed, in a thing of water. I will run it under the kitchen sink or dip my hands into it. That keeps it from bleeding less and keeps your colors brighter. So now that we've wet that down, and I've kind of ran my hand and made it pliable, we're going to start our flower. And I'm going to leave this tail a little bit bigger past the center. And you want to take your flower loops in the way that you bent them when you were making them pliable. I went over this first pin, I came straight down, and I'm going to go over that second one just below it. We're going to hold both of those right in place. And I'm going to take my needle, and I like to use a longer needle so it'll go across that cardboard. And I'm using sinew, and the reason that I'm using sinew is it is waxy and it holds in place better until you can get a knot into it or different things. So I'm going to tie it twice there now. And make sure this is in the middle. If you keep that in the middle, your flowers aren't quite as cattywampus. So I'm going to keep that like that word. So then we're going to go to our next one, just directly next to the left. And we're not crossing over or anything on these. We're coming straight down and around. So now that we have those two in, now that guy's a little bit bigger, so we want to keep him a little bit tighter. You want to keep them more the same size. And we're going to go through our flower. The hardest thing is staying off the needles or the pins. That is the hardest part of it. And we left our tail longer because our tail we're just going to keep tying as we're going. And that keeps our flower nice and tight. And we're going to go again to the left here. And straight down. And finish him off. And that is it. And I'm going to again come through my cardboard twice, and I tried to use some different materials besides cardboard, and they didn't stand up real good when I got them wet, so I like the cardboard. And I caught that onto that needle, so we're going to pull it off of there. And I just really like the brightness of the colors. And we're going to tie that once. And twice. Won't these make a beautiful centerpiece for your Easter dinner or party or whatever. Okay, I'm going to cut my little strings. I'm going to leave a little bit so I can put some glue on top of those guys. We don't want them too long because we're going to put a little center piece in them, and we want to make sure that those are kind of covered. Now, let's go ahead and trim our tail. Again, same thing. We don't want it above where that stone is going to show. And we're going to start removing our pins. And they're really in there, and that's what you want. And the last two you actually can leave in there and just slide your flower off. Now if you cap it looser, your flower is going to be bigger. And we have our cute little flower. Now this tail, now that we've got him where we want him, we'll go ahead and trim him to the size we wanted. but leave them longer in the middle so you have something to work to. And these are these new little wonderful flat stones that we've got, and I really like them for flower centers. So get them while we've got them because they're going to go fast. So we're going to put our little flower center on. Cover that up. And then we're going to bring it to the egg. Now if you wanted to cover up where you started it and stopped it, you can. Or if you want to put it on the front, whatever you want to do with that. Go ahead and do that. And I'm just putting a little bit of hot glue. I'm going to put it directly right on that hot glue and let it dry. We did pick up a couple of egg stands, and they're really, really nice. You also, for bigger ones, turn them upside down and use them on the other ends. We only have a limited number of supplies on those, so go ahead and grab those while they're hot. And that is just remove any of the glue that shows. You also could put some tentacles out the side. In one of my videos I did a reed flower, and I did it a little bit differently and added another layer. So go check that out. But that is our wonderful reed Easter gourd. I hope you enjoyed our fun little Easter egg ornaments today. Come on over to our Facebook page at Miriam Joy Gourd Creations, where we're giving away a fantastic Easter basket valued at $250 this year. We have lots more fun and do daily postings for you. Thank you and God bless.